it's May 15th, 2018. This is Tony Samario coming to you from my father's YouTube channel, BroSal.org. And we got a special edition for you because we got something going on that Dad and I have been waiting for 30 years to see, this move with the embassy to Israel. And I haven't been on the air for a couple of weeks because I've been traveling, and I'm actually here at my father's house, and I'm with my father. And for the first time in a few years, we're going to be able to have a conversation again about what's going on in Israel. So, hi, Dad. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tone. Hi, everybody. I'm certainly glad to be here. Been a long time since I've been on the air, but I'm ready and I'm anxious to have this conversation because we've been waiting a long time to see this. We said when it was announced that it would be a milestone, a turning point in the history that we've been watching anyway.
Well, yeah, we're still looking for that announcement, of course, for the 7-year peace plan and the building of the temple. But so how can you not see this as a stepping stone in that plan? And so I want to reflect quickly on how for 30 years, or at least 20 on the internet now, more than 20 since you first started writing about what seemed obvious to you at the time and to us as we were studying it, that the religious world, the Christian world, especially the Protestants, because the Catholics don't really study Revelation or have much interest in the apocalyptic scriptures, but the Protestants do, and it's the whole big deal with the rapture of the church and all the things we were caught up in. But the one thing that we got onto way back then, through the teaching of Gene Scott, was the image of Daniel, of Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel, the 70 weeks of years, the central theme of Jerusalem, and the idea that the imagery in Daniel, especially with regard to Nebuchadnezzar's image, demonstrates that all the kingdoms have to do with the kingdoms that have their associations with God's people, and it's in that land. And even the Roman kingdom depicted in that image was depicted with the two legs, one of which was in that land and the other one was in what we call Western Europe. But then that when the legs turned to the feet would of necessity be a Muslim empire, and that Europe, or the classical version of Christianity that was looking for European kings to fulfill this prophecy, was clearly wrong. And so that's something that the Dad started. I mean, this is what the channel started based on, trying to point out that error. And what I want to reflect on is not so much just how everybody's even come around now to, as we get set, and that's all, part of this setup, I think, for World War III, and shows how they direct the minds of these mindless Christians and religious people. But what I really want to reflect on is how at that time we were quite naive in thinking that religious Christians were all seekers of religious truth, following the teaching of Jesus, placing that first, all this kind of thing. We found out the hard way that they all have an agenda. Their teaching, if you can call that, is passed to them from someone. They receive a doctrine, an agenda, which at that time what we were fighting against was that, the 10 kings of Europe that are going to form this final empire. And we were saying, no, that's obviously not what Daniel really says, and that's what what you were teaching at the time. And we were imagining that there was at least certain portion of that religious world that would be interested to see our presentation of the facts, that everyone was honestly seeking the truth of the scripture and the prophecy. And we found out that no, in fact, they were completely uninterested. And so we chalked it up to simple pride, arrogance, foolishness, all these sort of things. But now when I look back, and this is how I want to tie it into everything we're working on right now, the Enlightenment series, the trying to figure out what Revelation really says about where we are, which of course what we're looking for are these stepping stones toward Daniel's prophecy and finally building that temple and making that 7-year covenant, because then you can't know where to go from there. But like Jesus said, when they asked him, and you see all these things, don't be alarmed, the end is not yet. All these things must happen, but the end is not yet. Doesn't Paul say peace and safety but sudden destruction, about the beginnings of sorrow, the birth pains, and then the birth can't be avoided? So I'm trying to pin us into that place in history right now with some reflection. And it's really got to do with all these things that are coming together that I hope, the couple of dozen people are appreciating the value of our commentary these days, because I feel like everything that started 30 years ago is coming together to where we're seeing a picture and offering a commentary on things that's really reconciling in a way that nobody else that I can find is even close. They're all off on their own little red herring tangent, blaming the Jews or blaming the Catholic Church, waiting for the Antichrist to come from the sky, the Pope's the Antichrist, all this kind of nonsense that everybody's got going in the world. Or else they're scaring them with robots and artificial intelligence, transhumanism. All the children are going to be, they don't already. I don't know if that's died out or I just stopped paying attention, but they're going to stop knowing whether they're boys or girls. All this kind of garbage.
Well, that's all the distraction to keep everybody in chaos, and you don't see what's really going on. But we started to watch in 1980. That's what, 38 years ago.
Yeah, so the point I wanted to make was this distraction now that's going on. What I'm looking back on is a world that was already being bent toward an image. That's why no one wanted to hear your story about, hey, look, guys, look how clear it is.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel's talking about Middle Eastern kings. But that wasn't the story yet. That wasn't in the script yet for Christianity. Christianity was still to be locked into their European Antichrist and all this kind of stuff.
Well, they didn't understand Antichrist in the first place.
Well, they still don't.
No, that's what I mean.
But
Christianity doesn't understand Antichrist, and we tried to teach them what it was.
My bigger point is that, we didn't even understand because of the people that taught us. And the bigger point is the reason of all that is because nobody was honestly looking, because everybody's been led for so long by these infiltrators, these Illuminati, these CFR, the people that run the world. They do it when, and this is why I want to get back to that book. I really do. I know nobody's, I keep getting 30 hits on our stuff, but good for you, a couple of dozen. The rest of the world's really missing out.
Yeah,
because
it's fun to understand the greatest show on earth.
Well, or at least have a perspective where you can really draw the strings and not feel like a confused person who's just reaching and closing your eyes to blind optimism or blind pessimism or blind iconoclastic, denial, all this kind of stuff that goes nowhere because you don't really see the bigger picture. You just know they're screwing you here or they're lying to you there, and it's scary. Who do you trust? Where do you turn? What do you do? And so I think what we offer as an opportunity to see the world in a very unique way, especially if you're someone that's ever studied scripture, gives it any relevance at all. I know it's very unique. And so I feel that, I feel the crowd is lucky that gets to hear it. And I'm glad that we get to keep putting it out there for now. And I don't know, because I don't hear from anybody except Dave. So I don't really know what the other couple of dozen, if how real they are and what they're really about. But I'm really pulling all the strings together right now. And this embassy move to Israel is a really big piece of this puzzle. but I want to put it in a position, not all the hype that all the Christians put it in. Antichrist, Donald Trump, all these terms get thrown around nowadays, and out of an inability to separate the baby from the bathwater, or any reality from unreality and propaganda, it's very difficult to have associations with these things, in a context.
Well, for as long as I've been watching it, what I'm getting out of where we are right now from the scriptures, we have to come to this uh, covenant with many for 7 years that gets broken, and war begins. So it's a peace that they're going to get involved in. And so I've always, in addition to waiting to see the covenant with many for 7 years come to life, it has to happen in a time when you're in this era of peace. Everybody has to be talking about peace and how wonderful it would be. And so the movement is to try and make peace. Whereas for all these years, we have not had that. We've had this peace process going on for 25 years, for crying out loud, and they're no closer today than they ever were. So,
Well, I think the point, I mean, if I can interject, that because this relates to the larger picture to me that seems important to get across in reflecting on 30 years of watching for these things, being completely brainwashed myself when I started, waiting for Jesus to come from the sky and take me to my Club Med and send everybody to hell because they didn't know him. And, but we at least saw that what was going to happen was going to be centered on a Muslim confrontation based on Daniel.
mhm,
We didn't know nothing else, but that we could see, and we could see that Christianity for some reason ignored all that.
mhm.
And so I'm now watching this progression where the knowledge that's promised that'll come about, people are going to be running to and fro, and knowledge will increase. And I'm wondering, the running to and fro, could that be an inference to the internet? This idea that, not physically running to and fro, but the idea that the trading of knowledge across boundaries that didn't exist, you know what I mean?
That don't exist.
Well, you can find out what an Indian's thinking right now. A million of them can put their thoughts out there, and you can absorb it, where that was never possible before. And so, I don't know, it satisfies in a certain way this prophecy is something new, and not a way that Plato ran to Egypt for knowledge, for new knowledge. But is that the new knowledge we're talking about? No, it would seem that this information everyone's running to and fro, and that's completely contaminated. And so I want to stretch it back now to 30 years ago, knowing it's the same contaminated information then, not some innocent search by any. We were innocent. We were just Christians. We believe in Jesus, and boy, this Bible's true, and aren't we going to find the truth in it? Oops, unlucky for us, we did.
Well, that's the whole thing. We set out to find the truth right from the beginning. If you listen to us from the first words we ever spoke.
Well, this is my point, but we were faced with a world that was non-genuine.
Well, that was their problem.
Well, not necessarily all the people. They were brainwashed, is what we find out. But the leadership of the people are non-genuine. And this is what I'm trying to get to, that relates to the book I'm reading in this Enlightenment series, which is about how they undermine through their infiltration, which is a 200-year-old plan. It's an older plan put into effect 200 years ago through Weishaupt and the Illuminati in 1776, as having now the means to do it. And the means is to do it like the Jesuits do it. That's why they got a Jesuit like Weishaupt to start this organization, because you do it by infiltration into every part of life, so that over time, and that's where the Fabian society concept comes from, it's very difficult to go in and just change a society or a river. But if you chip away at it, you can bend any river over time to a new direction. You can practically eventually turn it right back on itself. And so that's the concept of the Fabian society, and that's 100 years old. That comes along and all this other stuff that we were always talking about from 100 years ago. So when you get to where our little watch comes in at 30 years ago, assuming we're at this point where they're setting us up for this final time of peace that really is just another propaganda piece like terrorism, because it isn't really peace, and it's only a word that gets everybody, a sentiment that gets everybody ready to go to war.
Well, if anybody would go back and read our take on North Korea in the series that you did,
Think or swim.
Think or Swim.
Yeah.
Well, here you have, you'll find that we always saw North Korea as somebody that was set up, okay? Because it's our money that's buying the little that those people get. But the fact remains is that they were just being held back for a time in the future. And we talked about that. And now here we are. We make this turn in the road with the announcement that Jerusalem is going to be recognized as the capital of Israel by the United States. And we said, okay, there is the turn in the road. We are headed for something. What could it be? And after I sat and analyzed it for a while. I said, well, for what they're doing in Korea right now and everything, we have to be entering this era of peace that's going to bring about this 7-year covenant.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree, Dad, that the prospect is there on that timeline that we've been watching, and in reflection of the words of the Messiah when he said, "You're bound to hear wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation. Don't get alarmed. The end's not yet. These things are bound to happen." I mean, he goes over it again. Nation rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There'll be famines and earthquakes. Don't get alarmed. The end's not yet. So I've been questioning now for some time, okay, how long does that go on, these wars and rumors of wars and the end's not yet, before the wars and rumors of wars move into the phase of you'll be handed over to be persecuted?
You have to go through peace to get to
well,
there.
now wait a minute. You have to go through a temple. No, you have to go through a Messiah being announced that's not Jesus.
Well, that's true too.
So again, so this is just another milestone in getting to that point. But the larger point that I want to keep as an overriding concept with this viewpoint that I see from this 30 years looking back on a world that has not been progressing organically. There's no peace process. There's a scripted part of the plan called a peace process, in which they are getting certain things done that we're unaware of, except that we know where they lead. They lead to a world in which, according to Pike, the Jews and the Zionists and Islam can be pitted at each other, destroying each other, and Christianity and atheism can be pitted at each other, destroying each other, and they can bring about their Luciferian doctrine out in the open. That's Pike's version of the history that we're watching for. The version that Jesus seems to speak of, you're bound to hear these wars, but that's not it. Don't let that alarm you, which means, as I've said, it will be alarming, as it's been the last few years. Terrorism and the world's coming down. It's all been coming down for the last few years. Jesus said, don't be alarmed at that. The end's not yet. That's why I suspected the Hawaii isn't going to result in California falling into the sea yet, because Jesus said, don't get alarmed at all this talk right now. The end's not yet. So this brings us to what you're seeing as the way in which the geopolitical world can morph into this place we've been waiting for them to get.
They've been manipulating their way to this point all along.
Well, this is the whole of the thing I'm trying to make sure we all understand. We're not waiting on something to happen as in
maybe it won't.
Well, yeah, what's going to happen? What will North Korea do? Will they make peace or not? they already know what North Korea is going to do. I say that the bigger plays that we're unaware of are, from their perspective, are we ready to make North Korea make the next move on in our script yet? Have we done all the things that's called for in our script to get to that move? This is where I see the embassy fitting into place, not in some worldly people that are struggling to get something done against some force. No, there's one force using the forces they've set up. And within that game, there is push and shove because those people all got to kill each other. So in that game, you do have to wait for certain priests to get into power and certain politicians to live and die and make certain laws that have to come about. It has to happen in that real world.
Right.
And so this is where I'm now placing, because of the manipulation and control that's been able to keep everyone in the dark, not only for 200 years of infiltration, but when you go back now to just 30 years or so, and that's where this book will really help elevate our understanding of the real depth of control. You talk about Catholic Church, you think they're so rich and they got so much. Wait till you see, the way their strings are pulled by the people that pull the strings. And so if that's the case, then, as I say, there's nothing that Trump's done or Netanyahu's done or the Palestinians have done or they're waiting for Hamas to disarm. These are all storylines that are feeding into their greater story, which we know is we've made a plan for 7 years and we're going to rebuild the temple. Because we can't get to persecuting people in Jesus' name, not necessarily Jesus the Messiah, because that's the witnesses have to say that's not the Messiah.
Right.
That's the false Messiah. But the world has to say,
you
guys got to shut. Not only you're crazy, you're not gonna ruin this for everybody. And somehow there's what the Bible describes as these last two witnesses that are threatening to ruin it for everybody. That this team of "You're Not the Messiah" must be, cheering for, right? And I say, that's us, and we're the terrorists in the end. I mean, you're still talking about Jesus after the new Messiah comes. You are a terrorist. You're going to qualify under all these laws as a religious extremist and therefore terrorist. So anyway, I'm trying to add that perspective that knowing their manipulation and control and where they're going, the move of the embassy is certainly a demonstration of what I think you're on to with this ushering in the concept that we can make peace, we can save ourselves, we can keep from going to this big war. But that may have to carry on as a setup to this covenant. It won't happen week to week simply because it has to get to the point where the whole world buys miracles by some ascended master that comes back to the world and does miracles, and they build an image to it, and the image speaks, and the whole world buys it. Okay, so how close are we to that? Because that's part of it. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, to me, is just another thing like the word peace process. You can't get there without a peace process. But that's been going for 30 years.
Well, you can't get to the peace time without a move in that direction that's astounding. And this was an astounding move.
Well, more than that, Dad, think of the astounding move is the 30-year struggle to simply make peace with these Palestinians who I guess are just lobbing rocks and mortars, but you can't stop them. ISIS you can stop. Hitler you can stop. You can stop all these people, but you can't stop a few Palestinians that are lobbing mortars. You just can't stop them for 30 years. You have to just keep, I guess, sending Israel more high-tech weaponry and dividing the Sunnis and Shias and creating absolute death and hostility in that land during a 30-year peace process. See, so I say that's why you have to do that if your peace is going to be so monumental. that breaking it is monumental. You see what I mean? You can't just go into a peace process that we negotiated it this week, and here it is. See, you can do that now with North Korea in this short term because he's not the focal point. He's just been made a player like a Kramer, allowed, he's on the stage every day because they keep talking about him. He's got a small but very loud part in the world stage. And so you can show a sudden change in peace process with him, like you can show a couple year Iranian deal, whatever, how long, a year long or whatever that took to make the Iranian deal. You can stretch it out and all that, but you can't just make peace in Israel that fast. Otherwise, breaking it can't be that big a deal. Making peace can't be that big a deal.
Well, I know they've been trying for 30 years now. So now
no, they've been killing for 30 years so that peace would be something people would kill for.
I know. That's what I meant.
Yes.
See, they've been trying to make peace for 30 years, and in doing so, they've killed literally millions of people.
That's right. Well, no, because they haven't been trying to make peace. They've been trying to kill millions of people
under the guise of making
in the name of making peace, so that everybody could see that, oh my gosh, can't we just make peace and stop killing people? So that when they finally threaten to make peace, it's, the whole brainwashed Western world will just follow hook, line, and sinker any kind of bait that they want to sell them. Mm-hmm. And we're anticipating with our scriptural understanding that the bait they're going to have to sell them is, look who's come, right? It's not Jesus by name, but it is the Messiah, right? That can't just be announced because he, walks out of the woods, right? How do you know this is what does this person do that makes him the Messiah? You see?
Miracles.
Miracles. Well, I mean, we know that, but again, who catches him doing the miracles? How's it, this is all, speculation, but how has the Antichrist come on the scene? Does CNN just report one day, a man was seen doing miracles in Palestine? See, because we know they're not going to be surprised. They're building right now to their moment when the Messiah is going to come. But he can't just be, the Messiah's here. Who's going to say that? So what's going to happen that then the world will recognize him as the Messiah? You see what I mean? He doesn't just show up in Fox News. Hey, we have the Messiah on tonight from Jerusalem. That can't be the way it is. He has to do things that get recognized, and the world goes, holy shit, this is the Messiah.
Right.
So, that's what's got to come. And this is where I see what you've been seeing lately, this peace, this era of peace, that to get to that Messiah, he can't just pop out of the air. But if you start this peace propaganda,
this era of peace.
Yeah, I mean, you might have nailed the term. We'll know if that's what they call it. But if that's, we're referring to it right now in our own vocabulary as this era of peace, that is the way we're anticipating their script goes. Mm-hmm. They're going to usher in and sell it through all the media that, we made a deal with North Korea, and we're making a better deal with Iran, and we did something with Russia, and everybody's happy. They're not aggressive right now, and everybody's just going to go back to business. And like you've always said, there has to be a peace dividend, because that's what's got to make everybody so happy. That when the Messiah shows up and endorses all that, right? Because otherwise you're looking at a scenario where the world's on the brink of disaster, and someone shows up from the sky working miracles and says, I have the answer. That's going to be harder to sell.
Well, it's not going to happen that way. It's got to happen in the progressive. Well, it's going to happen just like they believe in evolution. It's going to evolve into, first off, we've watched it evolve for actually 38 years to where we are right now, from a little hint that these things, Scott said, this is talking Middle East. This is not talking Europe. So he says, watch over there. So yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all these years. So it has been coming and coming and coming, evolving uh, through propaganda to bring it in the direction that they needed it, to bring on a time when somebody comes on the stage that's got the guts to make America great again, or whatever is necessary to build the patriotism back up, to go to war at the drop of a hat because somebody attacked Israel.
Well, yes, that's a simplification, but that's the right simplification. They'll have to pull a lot more heartstrings to sell it, but the real idea is that in the Pikean version, that what you're trying to do is set up the Christians and the atheists to destroy each other. And when I look at that now in the occult mentality, what you're talking about is these extremists that refuse to grow. Because remember, they think they're the good guys that are doing the good, the only thing they can do, like a good farmer culling his, I can't get so attached to every animal with three eyes, the tumor growing out of its side, or I'm gonna have a farm full of diseased animals. So I have to be brave enough and enlightened enough to see through the apparent good and evil of death and suffering and all that, and do the bigger thing. And I believe that's how the occult masters of the world see themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they don't feel like evil people. They sell all that to the masses to justify the fact that, okay, see how stupid they are? I mean, the truth is out there. Manly Hall tells them all these people are out there to teach them. And who do they follow? Aleister Crowley. Who do they want to be like? Evil. Let them, that evil leads to somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
It leads to war at the end, see? And they know that. And so they want to bring about this new world, the Luciferian doctrine out in the open, which is there is no God and nobody gets to ruin anyone's trip over that. Everybody's God. And and we don't steal, and in other words, now we don't live by some fairy tale in the sky concept of reality or punishment and works. We live by the law of rational human consciousness, which is, if you don't live, if you steal, I don't know what they'll do with you, but their concept is there won't be stealing, there won't be hunger, there won't be, because they'll rule like Plato's king, the benevolent dictator. They'll make sure everyone's fed, but no one will do anything they're not supposed to do, because like the good farmer will deal with it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
See, so that's their concept of this perfect. It's not necessarily a technocratic. It turns out to be run by a technocratic order, but in their eyes, it's this benevolent dictatorship in which the enlightened are simply doing the best that can be done, and the sheep have to now follow. They have to either learn or
Get called.
get called. There's no more ruining it for everyone again. See, that's their vision.
Mm-hmm.
This religious notion came on and ruined it for everyone. And so that's why they can hate the religion so much and lie to them and just smile at you and think, boy, I'm going to tear your heart out one of these days.
Well, it's a good thing, though, the scripture gives us a complete picture of what it looks like at the end, all the way to the end, and they don't get their dream.
Well, this is the thing that, again, now, so we have to bring it back to surprise, surprise. You people saying, Jesus, you can't do that anymore. We'll kill you. This is where now you want to have faith. Jesus said, hang on a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
You're almost there now. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's the point where, yeah, he's already told you it's going to get there. They're going to threaten your life and take your life.
Put you in jail.
And take your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when they do that, know how close you are. Hang on. Don't give up at that point. See, that's already in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, they're nothing but good news. If you get to that point, it's not going to continue on much longer from there. So, trying to look at the way they're scripting this move now to Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
to me says they're ready now to focus the sheeple's attention excuse me, because remember, whatever they're saying to the Iranians, Pakistanis, and Indians, we don't really know. They got all the Indians to give up their currency and go in and get, to be part of that big experiment, I guess, of a digital currency and all that, right? And they made a little bit of stink about that through the alternative media to talk about, the 666 mark of the beast, here it comes, and the currency and the all that. Of course, see, that's why. Does anyone now, can I just tell you 24 people that, is anyone else out there been right about anything the last couple of years? Haven't I been saying it's not going to happen? It's not going to happen. It's not the end. It's not the end. It's not the 666. They're not going to, it's not happening, because that's what Jesus said. Don't be alarmed. The end's not yet, which means the economy's not going to crash now. And I think it's more like what Dad said. More likely, they're scaring everybody with that, so that when that 3.5 years of a dividend comes, boy, by the end of that, you'll be ready to sell your children to keep it going on an upward swing, rather than go back to the almost crashed world they were threatening you with a few years before.
The peace dividend is going to be so great in the eyes of the Western world, because the Western world measures everything on wealth,
right?
And how big a car you can buy, and how big a house you can live in, and how deep your swimming pool is.
That's it. Your buying power.
Yeah, your buying power.
Mammon.
Yeah, mammon. They're all
can't serve both God and mammon. That's why we want to kill all those darn Muslims over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they hate us for our life.
Yeah.
Because they serve God and we serve mammon. Or they have a pretense of serving their God first. We have a pretense of serving our mammon first.
Uh-huh.
And how dare you try and put God before mammon in our country? How dare you?
Yeah, well, and God said so clearly to this final age, if you want to call it, of the Christianity church, that they don't recognize it, because they don't recognize that they're miserable and wicked and poor, blind and naked, because of the fact that they're following the mammon.
Well, yeah, it's the characteristics are, you have rich and have need of nothing.
And they give lip service to the God.
Lukewarm, So, well, anyway, so yeah, I agree with you. But on the bigger point you just mentioned, I'm starting to imagine in our speculation of what is this move of the embassy really, pointing us toward. And if it is, along with what, as you're saying, is it just coincidence that at the same time North Korea's just flipped his switch, all of a sudden, as if we have, like you said, go back and say what I said. I've been calling him a tool of the system, and so, okay, but no, it must be real. He just decided to play ball. But anyway, so North Korea flips his switch at the same time, and that does, to me, seem to indicate that, boy, oh boy, while they've been building up nothing but war, Ukraine, Russia, all these things that really don't have, they stimulate it all. There is no real problem there. Even in places like, Venezuela, instead of the richest country in the world, got all the oil in the world, but for some reason, boy, they want those people fighting in the streets right now. And a lot of that, I have to imagine, is part of this long-term, never-ending undermining and infiltration to set up each population for where it's got to be at the end, which team it's got to join and why, and it's got to be completely committed to that thing. So if you can imagine let's just use Venezuela as a case study. If for whatever reason this move of the embassy were to lead in the next, say, year to this different, ISIS is gone, Syria's, they're making amends, something with Russia, with the.
Well, the Arabs are in charge of.
Well, I mean,
figuring out
okay,
Syria
so the Arabs are. In other words, what I'm trying to say is, if pressure starts to ease all of a sudden, and we start seeing this, what we're calling this peace era come, how hard is it for these Venezuelans? if they suddenly see the dividend of this peace where now they get to, the excuse, none of it's real. Those people shouldn't be starving. You think the government's not selling the oil? You know what I mean? So
the Valero station's got the most expensive gas in town.
Is what I'm saying. It's all an obvious scam for the people that are looking, and that's how they show each other what, it's all there. It's all right on the surface. So these stupid masses, you think they're not dangerous? You think they're not stupid? It's all right on the surface. People screaming in their ear the truth, and instead they won't believe it. They'll believe Fox News and CNN. So, okay, follow those Fox News and CNN. You can see where they lead. I say they lead to what Pike said. So, they're setting you up for that team. So Venezuela is a case study. You take these people you push now to the brink of lining up as practically a nation to go get sustenance. They see where the brink of disaster. And suddenly whatever happened in the world that their government backed, let's say a peace plan, results in the opening up because they backed the Western peace plan, let's say. They now get the sanction, whatever. They get to sell their oil. That's what's made in the news. Venezuela's being a good boy. And boy, look at the riches it's bringing. And now all these people are suddenly back on the money. Their stores are full of food. The newspapers all over our America is talking about how wonderful. Let's go visit Venezuela. It's never been better in Venezuela. What do you think's going to happen when they're now told, oops, uh-oh. Look what those son of a guns just did. Well, now you got to choose sides. You guys want to go back to standing in line? You want to be on our team? See? So I have a feeling that right now, all this pressure points, Russia and all the people being pushed and divided off their land, and is because there can't be any sort of middle ground. When they bring people, everybody's got to know which team they're going to fall in with because there is no other.
They have it totally divided into red team, blue team, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Well, even the independents who think they're so smug, they're either going to be red or blue.
Well, you have to see because where's your sustenance?
It's only red or blue.
Where's your sustenance going to come from when this is over? Russia or America? You think you're going to be on your own in this one, huh, Venezuela? Sure. You're either thrown in with us or you're thrown in with them. And of course, that's already been determined for the people. It's that when they sell it, it's, do you want to be back in those lines? Hell no. And all the young men are off to fight for what? Just some food. Because, of course, what do you war for? Your God, your family. You don't go to war for these idiots to kill everybody. So you can't, nobody's going to war for that. So I'm still looking at the bigger picture where the war comes after a Messiah comes. Are you kidding me?
No.
You see? So, well, how can it be any other way?
Yeah, really.
Because the Messiah is the one that ends the war, right? In our
the Messiah, not the false Messiah.
No, well, I'm no the real Messiah. I'm saying I'm saying the false Messiah.
Yeah.
The war comes.
He blesses the troops going to war.
My point is the bigger one, that what kind of state of mind does the world have to be in? In other words, we can see their state of mind for choosing up red team, blue team, and going to war. Financial, all the stupid propaganda they put in everybody's head. They're terrorists. They want to come and take over Europe, right? So the Europeans are ready to go kill all the Muslims because of the stupid propaganda. I mean, I'm looking at it and going, have they taken over Europe? I mean, you told me that too. Remember, I went over 2 years ago when they wouldn't even let me, when San Francisco came and gave me a hassle for watching that show that we did about the when that was the big story. The refugees, Christ going to change Europe, change the face of Europe. As I point out about all these propaganda stories, do they continue? I mean, that's a pretty big story.
Well, it has an aftermath, but the story isn't like it was.
Well, here's if the story is the Reds are coming, they're attacking, and they never attack, and that, well, how come what made you think they were coming then? So my point is simply that these stories that they tell you never seem to go anywhere, because at the time, whoever had the information, I mean, the information was the refugee crisis is going to destroy Europe. That's why people like Viktor Orban over there in Hungary had to, they had to put, how many miles of fencing those countries put up?
Sure.
And why do you think that is, Dad? Because they had to drive those few refugees that they could drive to Germany. They had to make a problem in Germany. They knew there wouldn't be a problem there in Hungary and these other places. So they had to wall them off from those poor countries and drive them on to the countries that could really go to war over it. See? So, I mean, that's obvious to me now. And because the whole thing's obvious propaganda, because where's the changing of the face of Europe? You mean the few rape and all these stupid propaganda cases? Show me one evidence that any of that's actually happened. My point is, hasn't changed the face of any European city. Hasn't turned to Muslim. They're not all wearing burqas in Paris now. All the stupid crap they were filling everyone's mind with 2 years ago about what this really meant. Oh my God, this is what's going to go back and listen to Fox News 2 years ago.
Well, look
and
what they had to do to get it started, man. They had to blow up them buildings.
So my point is the drasticness of the propaganda. We can see how that drives people to their red team, blue team brainwashed position of thinking the other guy's your enemy or the other guy's responsible for your poverty. Okay, but now, how do you sell the world on the Messiah has come? This is the part I'm still trying to get my mind wrapped around. All the rest seems to be falling into place. Okay, so now that I've asked the question,
well, he can't come unless we're in the era of peace. And I would say that he comes shortly, and I don't know what shortly means, but it means it's not longly. It's not 10 years or 20 years. Because once they establish the non-nuclear Korean peninsula that they're looking for, then they have the impetus to now put that same kind of pressure which they're starting to apply on Iran. And I noticed that Russia isn't getting upset over it, and China's not getting upset over it.
Well, I noticed there's been a lot less talk about. I mean, it's so funny, as they say, these stories. Okay, so I guess we don't buy the fact that the refugee crisis story that just organically changed. Okay, so it didn't change the face of Europe. All right, well, Russian aggression. They were. I mean, go back and listen to some Fox News from a year ago. Those Russians, they're dirty tricksters, and they can't be trusted. And all they want is to push, and
steal the election.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, they not only changed, so I mean, we had real dastardly deeds going on with Russia, and we couldn't trust them, and all this nuclear proliferation, all this kind of stuff. They're tricking us, and China, of course, undermined us, South China Sea. All these things were leading to war a year or two ago, or worst times ever been with Russia a year ago.
That's when I started to think that since you and I talk a lot about how phony all these wars are, that what it's leading to possibly is an era of peace. That's when I first started to think about this.
Well, no, we know that the wars and rumors of wars lead to a peace agreement. This era of peace that you keep referring to, we don't know if that's exactly how it comes, and if it is an era or not. What I say is significant is that we do know it's got to do with a peace agreement that has to do with a temple in Jerusalem, not the North Korean peninsula, not Russia, not China. That's not what it's about. Those are the superfluous. Those are the not superfluous. Those are the
impetus to go to the Middle East and go for the peace.
No, wait a minute. What I'm saying, or what I'm seeing, is those are the supporting cast of characters that create the drama around the Israel situation, so that you don't have the rest of the world at peace where, okay, we can all work on Israel because there's no other problems. No, the whole world's at war. Everybody's an enemy. All that's going on at the same time. But those are all the characters that fall right into place, really. All of a sudden, yeah. I mean, gosh, Russia being in Syria, if you remember, that was another storyline. Assad had to go. That son of a gun uses chemical weapons. And a couple of years ago, he had to go. And the fact that Russia was getting involved wasn't even acceptable. And oh my gosh, this could lead to war. And it didn't. It led to Assad staying and Russia, smiling. So that's kind of weird. So I guess they were wrong about that too. So I'm just pointing out that their stories don't go anywhere, which shows you that they're scripting them to lead the world somewhere. And we know they're leading the world to a Messiah around a temple.
And that's not a word that has been breached yet.
This is my point. North Korea and all these things, that's why they are not the key. They are the drama surrounding it.
Peace wasn't breached either. Only war was being talked about until just a few weeks ago.
That's why I'm saying I think this embassy move, the significance of it, combined with these supporting casts now throwing into their new character role of the scenes,
entering stage left, exiting stage right.
Okay, well anyway, this is what we have to watch for to know if this is an era of peace right now or just another boost to the war. We don't know, because it could be just another way to jack it up a notch by creating more violence over there, which of course it's doing in the way of Palestine and the Arabs. It's certainly jacking the violence up right now, which brings about the need for peace.
Absolutely.
And in North Korea, of course, these players are being used in a script. So North Korea can be backing off today, and then he was just tricking us tomorrow, and now he's twice as bad. You see what I mean? So you don't know till you get there. But I agree with you that in the analysis of looking forward to what are they bringing about, they're bringing a Messiah. They're bringing a 7-year covenant and a new temple. The state of Israel is going to claim this is the Messiah. He's going to work miracles. The world is going to buy it, except for this world that follows the two witnesses. And I say that's why right now they have to divide a certain. They also have to keep a certain sect of people very upset right now in the Middle East over this. That's what I think also plays into this embassy move. In other words, who's going to be your team that goes against the Messiah?
Well, we know that Iran pulls back from the prophecy. They come in later after this peace is broken. So somehow they get the word to move back, and
no, obviously, they're funding the red team that is in the playing field of their story. The red team is against Israel. And so all the people that are, that carry the red team flag, they can't accept Israel building this, just like they're screaming right now about the embassy move. Wait till they announce they're going to build a temple. Then they're really going to scream. So it's got to be then, I'm seeing in my own mind the sequence of events that first we have to get to them announcing to build a temple. Because remember, in the Pikean version, they want to destroy Zionism and Islam. Mm-hmm. So you can't have them friends over this. So when this 7-year covenant with many is not going to be with everybody, because somebody's got to be the red team that says, no way, we'll never stand for it. And yet the UN can enforce it. Iran doesn't go to war at that point, but they're funding the red team that keeps, just like they always do. That's because somebody has to keep holding up the red team flag. So Hamas and all these other people have to keep fighting this. And that's where our king of Jordan has to then come in to fight off the Arabs that won't go with the peace. Mm-hmm. And that can be how he can perhaps
be Sunni Shia, so
that's how he can perhaps be elevated to the place of being the Messiah, the one who brings peace and safety. Well, I'm just trying to fit into everybody's picture. The New Agers, the Theosophists, and the people who are claiming Maitreya say that he's already alive and all this kind of stuff, right? So they were wrong about some of their predictions already. So, okay, obviously they don't know it 100%, but so they can be put in their place. They can accept him perhaps because they've been wrong about some things, but they're still
expecting their ascended master. In other words, what I'm saying is they already expect he's alive. He's not falling from the sky in their book. So if he turns out to be this good king of Jordan, well, he's alive. We knew he was alive.
Well, he's the one that's going to go out conquering and to conquer. That's for sure.
Well, this is another.
He's already been hired to do that.
But this is what we expect is the character on the white horse of the first seal of Revelation. That doesn't necessarily mean that character is the same character.
Oh no.
That comes and works miracles.
No.
See, this is the point. We know, or I really feel pretty confident that the king of Jordan must be that king that's been given the go ahead to go conquer his own people.
Yeah.
And that seems pretty clear. He's going to be given the guns to wipe out the Arabs for Israel, but it's not going to work because they've set him up.
Trump already gave us the report on that, saying that when we're pulling out of Syria, but they're taking over.
Yeah, but that's all propaganda. I'm talking about the scriptural reality that we know is going to happen, where everybody gets wiped out. And the Pikean version we expect to be much more relevant than anything Trump or the news says. So in Pike's version, they're trying to set Zionism up against Islam. What better way to do it than build, move an embassy, build a temple? That's not going to piss off Islam, is it? And okay, so who's it going to piss off? Not Jordan, not Saudi Arabia, not Egypt, not the partners, not the blue team. But it's really going to make the red team upset. But the red team's not going to have the power because of the covenant that's made with many, meaning the UN, right? But
Probably.
That's what I'm projecting. But that's not going to stop Iran and their group from screaming, no way, no way, no way. That's what's going to make them, out of them will come these two witnesses that somehow they try and stop them, but they can't. The UN's trying to kill them, but they can't. And they keep doing things that stop this peace and this. We're trying to, build the temple.
Yeah, they have to be some kind of terrorist as far as the people are concerned.
Okay, so now when comes along our, the one that the Jews are going to claim as Messiah, and he's working miracles and the world's going to follow. See, what part of this world scheme is this Western world going to follow this Messiah and believe in it? See? So I say we have to get to a place where they actually do build the temple in this hostile environment, in the sense that there's an element on the other side that won't accept it. That's why I say the peace can't be flower child peace. It has to be this enforced peace by a UN.
Yeah, something breaks it. Something makes it go nuts.
Well, not only that, it has to then, whatever breaks it, be such a division that it winds up in a red team, blue team sort of clash with. And if it
major clash.
Well, and if it happens over the temple, and then we have to assume it's Iran. And so Iran then brings in Russia. In other words, Russia doesn't have to attack anybody, but they have to support Iran. And that's what brings them into the fight. You see what I mean? Just like they did in Syria. And everybody talked about, we're going to war with Russia. See, that's all the setup. Because that's what's going to happen. See? So they go through this they take the pulse, they set you up, they scare you, but that's not the time.
In order for the Jews to follow the prophecy, they have to do it this way. Zionism has to accomplish its goal.
That's right.
And the people that are in charge, half the Zionists are probably globalists.
Well, this is the point. See, Zionism, just like Catholicism, Protestantism, atheism, all these isms that have been infiltrated and funded now through all the theosophy and all this crap, it's all there as tools. That's what I keep trying to say, that the Zionists don't win by anyone's account. I don't know how anybody can look at them and buy that propaganda that they're behind everything. If they were, why wouldn't Pike say, and then eventually we'll build the temple, we'll slaughter the animals, and our Messiah will come. Zionism will finally be the ruling thing. But nobody sees that. If
Only the Zionists.
Well, in their little story, but when you look who funds them, those are the people we say hired Pike.
That's
So
what I said.
So they're a tool being
that
set
half
up.
of the Zionists are globalists.
Well, all of the, just like in the USA, all the ones at the top are in on the story of culling the herd.
Yeah.
Because, but here's really what makes the story so, to me, the hook in it all, that they want to build a temple. You know, that they have to build a temple to fool the people into thinking their story is accomplished in this Messiah and not the one they're waiting for. See, because that's why they have to follow the scripture. How are they going to convince you that they're right and we're God?
Yeah, because see, for the folks who don't understand it about prophecy, God is not making prophecy happen. God said he saw the story from the beginning to the end. And so he already knows the end. And then it happened because of the free will that he gave to mankind.
Sure.
Men did this to themselves. God didn't do it. He just said, look, here's what you did. And I have to come back now at this time to save you. Otherwise, there's going to be nobody left. And the sacrifice on the cross becomes null and void.
Yeah. Well, so there's no doubt about that. You know, I agree with you. God's not doing anything, but it's not written in that way. And that's why people don't understand the scripture, because they think it's literal. They think God wrote it. They don't think that Jeremiah was just a man, and whatever Jeremiah wrote and saw, God didn't write that. Jeremiah wrote that, you know, and whoever wrote, you know, go slaughter the women and children, that seems to be written strictly by whoever substituted the words so that the scripture would say just what Jesus told them to. You kill the prophets, and what does one of the scriptures say? If I send you someone that tells you what you want to hear, him you listen to. So, how many of them do you think told them what they want to hear? And that's what they wrote. Here's the scripture right here. Look, go kill the women and children. That's what the prophet said. That becomes prophecy for them, But that's why, if it wasn't for this story of this crazy, unique story of this Jesus of Nazareth, I mean, the rest of it would be just a sort of a bloody, unfortunate tale from the Old Testament.
It's a stumbling, and it was written and it became a stumbling block to the Jews and nonsense to the Gentiles. So if you didn't have the stipulation that you have to be called to believe this story, and then to have the representation of, through time, the 7 ages of the church, so to speak, where every characteristic of mankind is shown in the beginning, from the beginning of the belief in this story to the time when everybody is going apistos, faith in the wrong direction.
That's right, an apostasy with the people that originally believed.
While they're screaming and yelling that they believe in Jesus.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that, yes, that's what's certainly meant by the apostasy to me, and the characteristic of the Laodicean church and all that. So, we've covered that, but in this, I really think that that all can be seen, to maybe wrap it up with the concept that I was trying to start with, that if you view this history of the past even 30 years, as we've been watching the peace process, let's say, as something other than the geopolitical game show that they've put on television with presidents making deals, the Iran deal, the this deal, the that deal, and starting wars, and you look at it as a script being played out, just like I'm trying to show in this Enlightenment series by using the book that Piers Compton wrote about the way the Catholic Church was changed, just completely undermined in the 80s there, to become this modern, watered down version that could move into this next phase of the plan. I feel like that's such a perfect encapsulates what I've lived through now as moving my generation and the one behind me into the world that they're trying to set up to bring their Messiah, so that the world could be deceived. You see what I mean? So it's not just this Messiah that comes from the sky and works miracles supernaturally. No, they know that they have to satisfy the story in order to prove that they are God, and therefore have the right to set up their their kingdom based on the true light that we are God, and enforce it with the purity of their doctrine, the zero tolerance purity that they're going to be after. And so to do that, they have to bring about the scriptural prophetic reality in time, because then they are God. If they can do it, and no Jesus shows up from the sky, well then, wouldn't that mean, I mean, really, if we were trying to argue, is it real or isn't it real? Well, how would we know? If we sit by and just watch and wait, will this God show up from the sky? What if we are God? Well, then we wrote this. This is how we get there. So I guess
whoever wrote it is how we got here.
Well, this is what I mean. We are God, so therefore we're part of, somehow we left this for ourselves in time. This is the way it goes. Or if it is, then we can follow it. And if we can follow it, then we are God. See, so they have
what man is doing is using the fact that they have the knowledge of what the end was, and how man himself could manipulate other men to believing or making them the God.
Well, in the bigger picture, though, when you think of the occult perspective of trying to create this golden age where man lives free of these religious concepts that hinder his growth. I mean, that's their ultimate goal. Basically, a hedonistic paradise of just doing what you like and no one ever bothering you, and there being no restriction on you, because your experience is what gains you this knowledge of good and evil, which is progressing you toward your own godhood or your own godlikeness, or however what the different types of people put it into their classification. So in this ideal world they're trying to create, this Messiah then must simply be the method by which they finally let the people follow their false narrative into the grave. You see what I mean?
Sure.
It's not really to prove that they're God, because they don't believe in this God.
No, I know.
That the people are following.
It was what they used as the tool to get them to, like the lemmings, run off the cliff.
Well, yes, because remember, through the Kabbalah and all that, they believe that somehow the allegorical truth is contained, right? All truth is there allegorically in the things that are divinely inspired, whatever that means. And therefore, the exoteric masses that would follow it literally must therefore follow it literally to its end. And perhaps that's why they feel this authority and even obligation to provide that exoteric reality for the masses to follow, including their Messiah and the miracles, and now go die for him. Because this is what the Messiah must be the one that leads them to.
Well, you can't get rid of it until the people that will die for him die for him.
This is my point, and that the people that oppose him, and that those can all be brought to war over that one figure, that one confrontational happening. See, that's why it has to be a happening again, the miracles and all that, because that's what religious people are waiting for, to convict them. And once they're convicted, they die for it. And I don't know how, if he's working miracles in the sight of men, how do the atheists explain it at that point? How does the non-believer explain the miracles? Well, I suppose as they always do, tricks, illusions, misunderstandings. Or will it be shown to be both at the same time? Will the Messiah himself demonstrate that it's simply an understanding of physics, a mastery of blah blah blah, so that a miracle isn't what you thought it was? Look, to the religious it looks like a miracle, but to the non-religious it's rationally, scientifically explainable, and now everybody loves me.
Mm.
And you know what I mean? He fools the world.
The world is deceived. I understand.
Except for if it were possible, he would even fool the very elect.
Mhm.
So that's how clever and deceptive it is. Just like 9/11. Yeah, it was pretty damn clever. We all thought planes flew into those buildings for a long time.
Everybody saw them.
Right?
Yeah.
So come on, the precedent's already there. That's the way I see it. They've already demonstrated. Look at that. Like, even years later, now that everybody knows, that all the architects know, everybody knows it didn't happen that way. Nobody's stopping us.
Well, you know why? The news cycle's only 24 hours.
Well, again, this goes back to why brainwashing.
Absolutely.
The technique of what we're experiencing in America is the technique of brainwashing.
Yeah.
And I guess
news cycle.
if you want to say that there was anything the Spirit did to lead me, it must have been that Spirit that led me away from television, away from all that brainwashing, even before I knew it was brainwashing, and even before I knew it wasn't all true. Even when I thought some of it might be true, for some reason I got led away from it, and I realized it's only in spending some time, as in years, it wasn't for 3 or 4 years, that I started to look at it all differently. To where now, after 15 years away from it or whatever, to me it's like going to another planet.
Oh, I know, it's creepy. When I came
It's
back,
creepy, yeah.
I mean, I was gone for 5 years without a television set, and then all of a sudden I'm thrown back into it in a political year, and I watch, but the difference between my watch and maybe other people's watches is that I really feel apart from it. I'm sitting up in the balcony looking down on this thing, watching the world respond to what God said they were going to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm interested in. And all the characters that come on the stage are the characters in this play that are creating this. So all of this time, what I started out to do was I wanted to see how it literally happened. And after 38 years, I'm at the door of what I call the possible era of peace that brings the end finally.
Well, Dad, I think that's a great analogy, and it's very exciting right now for me to watch. That's why I thought this embassy move was worthy of talking about again, the geopolitical state we're in, because this is really a significant move. I think now, based on what you just said and what you're seeing, I agree that what we need to watch for now, or what I'm watching for, is is this going to are they in the propaganda over the next few months? Right now, it has to be all conflict, because they just moved the embassy to Israel, and the Palestinian, nothing but death and conflict. But amidst that, they're talking about to quell that. They're showing you, North Korea, they want to be a good boy. So now what'll be very interesting, I think, to watch is over these next few weeks, will the talk of, more amiable relations with everybody start dominating? There's a way to work things out here and there. Things really aren't so bad. Where the refugees are finding a way home, and all these stories, like you say, 2 years ago they were ruining Europe.
I think the way that it's going to turn out is the way that it's working toward right now. The understanding that's happening is that for some reason, nobody wanted to move to get these kind of things done until now. And that only tells me that they weren't ready yet. And
Well,
then,
no, but we don't know what ready for what.
well, to
We won't
move, to
know
make
until
the
next
move,
month
right,
or whatever, you know.
right, to make the move to get this whole thing started in a direction.
Well, remember, this embassy rhetoric started how many, a
30
couple of
years
months
ago.
ago. No, but I mean,
Oh.
as far as Trump saying we're going to do it.
Yes, a couple of months.
Okay,
And
so
boom, here it is. We're
well, but
there
I mean,
already.
so 2 months ago they start the rhetoric. So that's what I'm saying. What rhetoric? I mean, that's what I'm watching anyway right now. Is what kind of rhetoric will be surrounding this big move now? Because this is a big confrontational move that, of course, is going to create all the pundits talking about all the propaganda. But I'm looking for what is the atmosphere going to be now? Are they going to start presenting that relations can get better? Because if we're coming into this era of peace, then what they're going to show from this, I would suspect after this embassy move, is some way in which Israel and Hamas and these guys are going to sit down and work something out now so that they don't have to kill each other over it. Because otherwise, how could they sit down? I mean, if they've been getting the short end of the stick all this time, and one of the the points of contention for them on the final status talks and all this kind of thing have been the status of Jerusalem. There's a reason for 30 years they tell us no one's bothered to move the embassy because, well, they'll go crazy and there'll be civil war. This is what they've been threatening and saying.
Okay, now here's something that's a fact because I've watched it personally happen for years and years and years and years. Every time they came to a table to make peace, the people who destroyed the peace were the Israelis, not the Palestinians. They never wanted to make peace.
Well, yeah, but
and
that's
they blamed it on the Palestinians.
Yeah, well, okay, that's fine, but that's here, that's just part of the script to get to here.
Yes.
But so what I'm saying now is the script here that you've used to get to here is that for 30 years, if you dare move that embassy until you settle the Palestinian issue, all of those people will go nuts. So now you've moved it. Are they going to go nuts? Because that's what they would do if it was real.
Well,
if
40
they weren't,
people died yesterday. But
well, that's what they tell you. So I'm saying,
Yeah.
But that would just be the beginning of something that would be like a 6-day war to stop. You're not just going to stop it with a few police raid gear. Not if it's real, because these people won't stop.
Right.
But if this is what I'm saying. So to read the propaganda, does this suddenly change to they're talking to each other? Because if this results in them talking to each other, then I think we're really closer to this era of peace that you call it.
Well, it's catchy. It becomes catchy because you're in this. Everybody in the world said, well, boy, we can do it in Korea. We can sure do it here, and we can sure do it there.
Again, it's easy to see their
I
propaganda
understand.
because
Sure, I know.
their story changes.
I know.
First, the refugees are going to destroy Europe, and then that story drops. So first, you can't possibly move an embassy to Jerusalem because for 30 years, everybody knows, every political analyst, every
they all
think tank,
promised it, but nobody did it.
Well, no, the reason they didn't do it, what we're told through the political analysts, is because it would cause civil war.
Right.
So they didn't just not do it because Donald Trump wasn't there. They didn't do it because it would cause civil war, we were told. So now they did do it. It should cause civil war. And if it causes instead people to sit down and talk, it's the script and not that they're using it to cause civil war. And that's why I say, be careful about this era of peace yet. What it should cause is civil war. It might be meant to cause civil war. We have to see. But if everybody starts sitting down talking nice now, why would they? The refugee crisis, what suddenly changed that everybody's nice? Assad's still in power with his chemical weapons. Iran's still with the better deal. Russia's still aggressive. The refugees are still in Germany. What's changed that all of a sudden we don't need Assad out? Russia's not aggressive anymore. China's not trying to take over the South China Sea or destroy our economy. All these things just can be flipped like a card in our modern world. So anyway, that's what I'm watching for, and I really appreciate the few people that stick in and keep getting the commentary. I hope you find it as valuable as we do, and it's certainly unique. I know that. So anyway, thanks for being here, Dad.
Yeah, I really appreciate it because it gave me a chance to have live conversation with you that I haven't had a chance for in the last couple of years. And I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and thanks, folks. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk to you again soon.